The idea of a maintenance buyout is thinking about maintenance, which is typically paid month by month over time. Some people who have gone through the process of maintenance calculations may not feel that it's fair at all. The challenging process of wrapping their head around maintenance, whether because they're receiving it or paying it, it can be daunting either way. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Holly Mullen. I am the managing partner at Sterling Law Offices. Today, I want to talk to you about an interesting negotiation strategy that we use in divorces that I think it's worthwhile to bring up because when I talk to my clients about it, they weren't otherwise familiar about it. It's not something they had heard about before I had talked to them. And that is the idea of a maintenance buyout. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean when I say maintenance buyout. So, two separate ideas there encompassed into one. Part of that is maintenance. We refer in Wisconsin to alimony or spousal support as maintenance. It all means the same thing. It's money paid to an ex-spouse by a former spouse. And it is intended to help that individual receiving the payments to afford their lifestyle. It's intended to create fairness in the overall financial settlement. I know some people who have gone through the process of maintenance calculations may not feel that it's fair at all, but that is the reality of our law state of Wisconsin. So for us to be able to come up with creative solutions for those clients who are going through the challenging process of wrapping their head around maintenance, whether because they're receiving it or paying it, it can be daunting either way. And I do sincerely mean that. People receiving maintenance often have a lot of angst and fear about receiving it on time. Is it going to come in consistently that they can rely upon? Are they going to be able to meet their budget? Is it going to be sufficient for them to qualify for loans and the credit up that they need to eventually buy a house? For those paying it, it's very nerve-wracking. Are they going to have enough cash flow? Is this going to bleed them dry? Is this going to go on in perpetuity? What if something changes in the future? There's uncertainty around it, and it can create angst in both directions. So the idea of a maintenance buyout is thinking about maintenance, which is typically paid month by month over time, right? The precise amount that's paid per month and how long it's paid is completely dependent on the case circumstances. Every case is unique. There is no such thing as a one size fits all when it comes to maintenance. It is by far the grayest area in family law, meaning it's not black and white. It is very much dependent on factors and circumstances of each individual case. Let's, for example, talk about a maintenance payment that is $2,500 a month for a period of 5 years. Okay, that's what the parties are negotiating, or they're close to that number, thinking that is a fair and reasonable amount to allow the recipient to meet their needs and to get back up on their feet, and in a fair division of the overall net income so as to create an equitable financial settlement. Okay, so that was $2,500 a month for 5 years. So 60 payments. If you were to just take that amount and extrapolate it, you say 2,500 times 12 months in a year times 5 years, your number, the gross amount that you're going to receive in that maintenance calculation is $150,000. A maintenance buyout thinks about the maintenance just like that, as a lump sum dollar amount instead of a month by month payment over time. The goal with a lump sum payment is first and foremost to create finality. It is done upfront. There isn't this tethering of the ex-spouses for an extended period of time after the divorce. So there's some value there of just having the finality of the separation financially. Another value is you remove the uncertainty of the future. So if you're paying the maintenance, you may think, what if I start making more money in 2 years, 3 years, and they come back and ask me for more money, or they lose their job and come back and ask me for more money? What if I win the lottery? Can they come back and ask me for more money? The recipient could say, what if the payor, the person providing this support to me, loses their job? What if they intentionally lose their job to spite me? I get all these questions like that. And so this uncertainty of what could change in the future, if the door is left open, could they come back and ask for more money for a longer duration? And then finally, the idea of a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Getting the money up front creates an understanding of, I have the money now, I'm not waiting on it, I can spend it now. It's actually useful to me presently, as opposed to having to wait for it over time. An obvious question that jumps out usually to my clients when I present this idea to the person paying the maintenance is they would say, well, what's in it for me? Of course, people want their money up front, but why would I just give all this money up front? Because a maintenance buyout, in order for it to be enticing to both parties, including the one paying it, is that there is a discount provided, right? So the recipient's going to get their money in hand up front, and you, payor, get a discount for being willing to do that. You're giving them the money up front. That's great. Then there's no risk to them in not getting paid, but you are taking risks because what if you lose your job? Or if either of you die? I know that's a morbid thought, but divorce often has some morbid thoughts associated with it. So if either party dies, maintenance would otherwise stop. So if you have this 5-year, like my example of $2,500 a month for 5 years, if the recipient dies a year after the divorce, maintenance stops, right? So those last 4 years they're not getting paid. Likewise, if the payor dies, maintenance stops. The estate does not continue paying. Another risk is remarriage. So if the recipient of maintenance remarries, maintenance stops. That's a rule, right? So the payor is going to be looking for discounts for those items. Giving the money all up front is valuable to the individual, but there's risks associated with the death, with the remarriage, and then of course with interest. So if I have my money in my bank account or in my investment portfolio, it's earning money. My money makes money for me. So I can sit there and accrue, depending how good you are with your investments, very safe, very conservative numbers, 5% at least. And sometimes it's like you may look at your investments and it could be 20% annually. You never know. But the point is, money usually earns money over time. And if you pay that all up front, that's an advantage to the recipient, not the payor. So the payor is going to be looking for discounts associated with that interest that could otherwise be accrued and the risks of remarriage and death that they would otherwise get to stop paying. So if you took that same example, 2,500 for 5 years, I gave you that number of 150,000. Even if you gave each of those items, say, a 5% discount, so an overall 15% discount on the lump sum payment, it brings it down to about $127,000. That starts sounding a bit more appealing, right? Now I could get a $23,000 discount on my payment if I can come up with the money right now. And then I have finality and I can go and make more money next year. And I don't have to worry about getting hauled back to court, because the buyout inevitably comes with a termination of maintenance, meaning the door is closed. You've been bought out. You cannot come back to court for any reason to ask for the maintenance to be modified or changed in the future. And that is really a good value typically to both parties when they can look at it that way, if the cash, of course, is available. If the payor doesn't have lump sum money up front, this is not going to work. But if there is an investment account or cash available, home equity available, those options, this option can be very appealing to both parties. And it's something worth exploring and thinking about. These creative ideas, thinking outside of the box, are often what can get that divorce across the finish line. Making sure that you're thinking through, is this the only way? If somebody's digging their heels in about maintenance, it could be that, look, I just don't want tethered to my ex-spouse for this long. I don't like the uncertainty of it. I don't want to see that money coming out of my payroll every single week or every single month for 5 years, 10 years, indefinitely. You never know what that's going to look like, but there is some value to just being done with it up front. And that's where a buyout can come in and add value to a divorce negotiation. So I hope that this was news, or at least interesting to listen to, maybe enlightening in some ways. But trying to think of those creative solutions might just be the way to get the divorce finalized and to let you get to the other side of it. So thanks so much for joining me today.
You're considering a maintenance buyout to create financial finality. But here's something else to think about. The assets you're dividing may not be split the way you expect. We dig into Wisconsin marital property rules here, and why skipping a prenup could mean giving up half of everything. Click to learn how to protect what's yours.